Uh, camera says. Camera says, audio says. Brilliant, brilliant. Are we doing the thing? Cameraman. Screen share. What is all this bollocks? What is all this bollocks? Okay, let's see here. Chat is okay. Screen share. Screen share does not need to be on. Hooray, he's here. Wonderful.
Here we are.
Ah, that's what we're looking for. Okay, brilliant. So we're actually live right now.
We are actually live. See if anyone actually watches this whilst it's live. Otherwise, oh well, people will see it anyway.
It's true. I mean, in America, it's like 10 minutes to 3 o'clock in the morning right now. So
which coast? Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, like, you know, give it like another hour or so, and at least someone on the East Coast is going to be waking up to do something. So.
Yeah, fingers crossed. Because it's going to be like 3 o'clock in the morning in California, which means it's already 6 or 7 in New York or whatever. I honestly don't know where most of my viewers come from. I should look that up. Anyway, so ladies and gentlemen who are watching and who will be watching in the future, of course you know me. My name is Vincent. This is my dear guest today, Lysander. Lysander, you have a real name, don't you?
It's Alex. People can call me Alex, but my internet alias is Lysander, mostly just because I really like A Midsummer Night's Dream. Favorite Shakespeare play, I take that character.
Hey, nothing wrong with that. Shakespeare's a decent dude, depending on whether or not he really existed, but that's a different time.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, wow.
So for the intro to this video, it's going to be, I have spoken with Lysander for a long time about teaching abroad in Japan using the JET program.
Yep.
And of course, this is my second time on JET, which I guess is not normal for people on JET, but
it depends. I mean, I know of at least one person who did JET for 5 years, then went back to the States, and then went back to Japan, you know, a few years later. So it can happen. It just depends how much you really love Japan.
Yeah, isn't that really the case? And I mean, like, I had my own reasons for leaving before, but that's not what this video is about. This video is about the experiences of having taught abroad, because, Alex, you are not just interested in teaching in Japan, are you?
No, I'm actually okay. So I'll do a little bit of a story first. So back in 2011, I just finished my my undergrad degree.
Congratulations.
And yep, I now have 2 of them. Hooray! So much debt. It's fantastic.
Isn't that the life? And you're not even American.
No. Yeah. Oh yeah. No. But continuing the story.
Yes.
So I'm going to visit a friend who's he carried on to, you know, stick with doing academic stuff. He was doing like a law thesis type situation, and he was staying with a friend of his. And his friend had a roommate called Fumi, who was a native Japanese who had come over to the UK to teach Japanese. So kind of like a reverse of the JET situation, where, you know, in exchange was made, you know, someone went over to teach English, she goes over to teach Japanese. It was all quite interesting. She introduced me to the wider concept of, you know, ALTs and the English as a second language wider career. I had no idea this was a thing. The only way I knew how to get out to Japan was the MEX scholarship, and that was just like a case of, if you pick a very specific master's degree, we might get you some funding. You know, it's a little bit off.
Yeah,
So I
MEX
started.
is one of the organizations that helps with JET as well, and they have very, very specific and stringent requirements for the stuff that they want. So
Yeah,
the
so
people that
I
get the
applied.
MEX stuff, good on them.
Yeah, I applied for it, but my application was in relation to my degree, which is in film studies and media, and they
Sure.
just basically sent me a reply saying, "Yeah, we don't really do that. I mean, if you want to do like flower arranging or learning Japanese, we can help you with that. But yeah." So I started researching, the JET program and things like that. I started finding people on YouTube, which is how I met Mary, and then you through her videos. And when you guys were doing live stuff, because of my work schedule, I was working in the evenings, and you guys were streaming late for you, which was early morning for me.
Right.
So I could actually get on and be literally the first person on live on your screen, which led to one or two hilarious incidents.
I remember them fondly.
Yeah, like a slight, that kind of rapport you can get between someone doing thing on YouTube, someone watching thing on YouTube, which led to you in particular helping me out with my applications to the JET program and stuff like that.
Of course.
But yeah, so as far as I was aware, I only really knew about the JET program, so I applied for that not once, not twice, 3 times, and failed all of 3 times. And then I applied a 4th time and did not make it then. So I just thought to myself, because they don't give you any feedback, you don't know what you did wrong.
Yeah, right.
Because it's a very specific application process. Because I think you went through it twice before you got to it the first time.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I didn't know if it was my references. It probably was at one point, or I wrote down the wrong thing on the forms or something like that. I have no idea. So I got pretty despondent at that point. I was having a conversation with my mother. She said, "Okay, so at this point, flash forward, 2-3 years. I finished my undergrad degree, spent a year working in a factory. Then I went out and did my master's degree in script writing. So that was a
fantastic.
year. And after I finished that, had no money, had no means of getting to a major city where media things happen. So I moved back to where I'm originally from in the rural southwest of the UK.
Fantastic.
And and I'm staying with my grandparents, who at first they think, yeah, no, we'll put you up for a few months. A few months becomes later, 2.5 years, as I get a job working at a local hospital, just doing general cleaning stuff.
Sure.
Okay. Start with a 0 hours contract, then I'm working 15 hours a week, then 20 hours a week, then 30 hours a week. And it was this around July last year, I'm having a conversation with my mother, and she basically, in her very blunt fashion says, "Okay, so what the F are you doing with your life?" And I at this time, I found this thing online called the TEFL certificate, which stands for Teaching English as a Foreign Language.
Which is a useful thing for people who want to do the sort of stuff that we are doing to have, but it is not always necessary. If you do have it, it looks real nice.
Yeah, it's the iron boot that goes around your foot when you jam it in the door. Normally, if you apply for a job, you try and stick your foot in the door, say, "Hey, I could be kind of good," and they just slam the door on your foot until you give up. But the TEFL certificate is the thing that allows you to keep your foot in the door and then work your way from there. So it's a way of getting yourself noticed. But after that point, it's kind of like it's like having a bachelor's degree. They don't generally care what kind of degree you have. I mean, if you have a degree in teaching or English or Japanese or what have you, fantastic, great. They're mostly just interested in you having that little BA and a certificate. It's the same thing with TEFL.
Oh yeah.
So I mentioned that I've been interested in the TEFL. My mother says, "Okay, look, I've got a little money right now. I'll pay for it." So she does, and the thing I did was through a company called the TEFL Academy. And there are various different, degrees you can do it. You can do it purely online, or you can do it in a classroom. My one was mixed, so I went down to the city of Exeter in Devon for a weekend-long seminar. And that was like 20 hours of classroom time, that kind of thing, where you get you run through mock lessons. We did like there's this where the teacher, she was asking like, okay, so what languages do you know? Do you know any of these languages? It's like Portuguese, Catalan, things like that, like really kind of slightly obscure things, and none of us knew Catalan. So she did like a basic, foreign language lesson in Catalan. So we're all only allowed to speak that one, slightly obscure Spanish variant, which sort of opened my eyes to different things. And after you finish the weekend, naturally, you start getting emails saying, so, you've now finished your thing, why not apply for this? Why not apply for that? And I saw one, which was for a teaching internship in China. And I was mostly interested in it because basically there are no barriers for entry. You don't need teaching experience, you don't need to have completed your TEFL. They just want to get people out there. And I'll explain why in a little bit once I've worked my way up to things. But yeah, so I applied for that, thinking, as you do when you apply for most jobs and things like that, it's like, oh, I'll send an application, I probably won't get it. I get a reply 2 days later from the agent saying, yeah, so that gives me a phone call. He likes what I have to say. He arranges a Skype meeting with the people who are in China. Skype meeting goes well. And originally, because this internship has 2 intake periods during August and February,
sure.
This is in July, like early July. And they say, okay, so great, we'll see you in late August. And I was just like, where?
About that.
That's too soon. I have no money, and flights cost money, and I need to get savings because I'm paying off my master's degree loan.
Right.
So things like that. So I ask, look, can I go in February of 2016? And they say, yeah, no, that's fine. That works for us as well.
Good.
Flash forward February 2016. I've got a visa. I've got plane ticket, all that kind of thing. I fly out, and I'm teaching in rural China for 4 months, and now I'm back in the UK briefly because. Turns out applying for a work visa is a major pain in the ass.
Yeah, well, I can definitely confirm that no matter where you go, work visas tend to be one of the biggest problems. But China, Japan, Korea, the Asias in general tends to be slightly more stringent about them for one reason or another.
Yeah, because basically, after I got the go-ahead for going into the internship program back in late or early July last year, and I knew I was going to be going out in February.
Sure.
Around December time, I kind of got a little bit ahead of myself and started, okay, so I'm going to be done about July, August. I should probably try and apply for other things and try and stack up contracts in advance, like a real teacher would. And I applied for one job, again, thinking that nothing was going to come for it. But they got back to me, had an interview, and they said, yes, so we'd like to provisionally offer you a position. This being an actual job in Beijing.
Hey, well done.
Yeah, that's what I'm kind of waiting for. And that's one of the reasons why the paperwork has been taking so long, because Beijing is a municipality, which is different to the provinces. There's extra state control. So their red tape has red tape.
Yeah, that sounds pretty super good.
But I'm just bearing with it because once I get out there, I'll be out there until late August of next year. It's a full contract. They reimburse my flight. They reimburse the flight of wherever I'm going to be going to after I finish. They help pay for rent, and the salary is 19,000 RMB a month, which comes to about let's see. What would the equivalent be? For English pounds, that would be about, say, if I was earning a little shy of £1,800 a month. I don't know what that would be in dollars. Maybe like $2,500 a month. Probably less because I'm going overboard, but earning good money for a teacher. Let's put it that way.
Right. Let's see. 800 GBP in USD, according to Google, is $2,340 for anyone who's watching in Merca land.
So yeah, I'm going to be making money.
It's kind of good, right?
Always a good thing when you've previously been in a situation where you're doing exactly not that.
Yeah, I think speaking as someone who is alive right now and wasn't alive 40 years ago or before, basically everyone is in that situation right now where it's, making money would be super good. I wish that I have ever done that. So it sounds like you've got some good stuff lined up if they can get the paperwork done for it.
Well, I did like the last. It's basically just been because this is the first time that this sort of company is bringing out teachers. They're very green when it comes to the situations. They know what they need to do, but I think they were kind of unaware of just how specific the various ministries wanted the things to happen. How you cannot do things in advance. You have to clear the one step before you can move on to the other step. And because of the 8-hour time difference between me and China, as I'm falling asleep at 10 p.m. in the evening, they're just about to start getting up with their day, and vice versa. As I'm getting up in the morning, it's the end of their day, so they're not at the office. So communication has been kind of haphazard and pretty poor.
Yeah.
So I'm learning about things that I need to do late. I always knew the last thing I needed to do was to have a full medical checkup. Which, yeah, that's fine. That's pretty standard. I knew that was going to happen.
Sure. Incidentally, you'll need one of those if you're coming into Jed as well. Just as a heads up.
But I figured they would be okay with me just having a note from my doctor, my GP, saying, yeah, no, this guy is fine and dandy to travel. And then once I got to Beijing, I can have a full medical checkup there because I've had it done there before when I first went out to Sichuan.
Sure.
And it's because most jobs out there require Chinese workers to do this. Not only is it very available, it's also quite cheap. It's like 300 RMB was mine, which is the equivalent of £30, so $40. So that's really good for having an X-ray and an ECG and having them check your eyes, nose, ears, mouth, spine, everything.
Oh yeah, that does sound like it's a really good setup.
Yeah. So I thought, yeah, we can do that. Turns out my school was having none of it. No, I needed to have the full medical checkup before I flew out, otherwise they wouldn't send me the invitation letter, and the people, the agency I'm working for, whilst they have the work permit they needed for me now, they wouldn't send that out either, because there's no point, because the post between China and the UK takes a while.
Yeah, that sounds really good.
So yes, on Friday I was having a full medical checkup to the at a private walk-in clinic because I needed to get it done as quickly as possible, because technically I was supposed to be out in China back in the 25th of August, but I'm still here in the UK. So
yeah. So maybe
I need to get out there because my school, whilst understanding of the situation, they get this can happen. I want to be out there teaching. They want me out there teaching. So I'm trying to get things done.
They did hire you to do that thing.
Precisely. So I ended up paying at this private clinic £400.
What?
Yeah. Thank God I've been working a lot since I got back, because I contacted my old job at the hospital and they've just had so many hours. I've been at least 6 hours a day every day, so I've been making money. But yeah, I could afford it But yeah, wow.
Yeah, still, blood and
Oh,
thunder, that's a lot of money to throw down for a medical examination. And I say this
yeah,
as someone who's from America.
yeah.
Ugh,
So
that's terrible. Okay. Well, so you've got all your stuff set up now so that you can head back over to China and start doing your thing. But while you were over there the first time, for the internship that you were talking about, you said you were there for 4 months. Do you care to elaborate on where, like, specifically you were, how rural it was, and that kind of thing?
yeah, no. The internship program is based in Sichuan province, which is out there in the west. It's on the border of I'm gonna utterly butcher the provinces, but the main one that people will all know is it's on like one of the edges of Tibet.
Sure.
It's right up there, or the Tibet Autonomous province as it is now.
Fantastic.
Um, so I was out there, and we were all flown into the main central city of Chengdu. We had a week-long orientation period of this is the job, this is what you're going to do. Please continue to do the job. Don't leave halfway through, because people do that.
Of course.
Situations may vary. You get a meeting with the police and things like that. They take us to the some tourist spots. They take us out for dinner. It's all that kind of stuff.
Okay.
And I was originally, because I have a master's degree, they can market me a lot more widely, because it's seen, when you say master's degree, people immediately think, oh wow, he's done things, he's a smart person. Yeah, no, I can just write film scripts. But on paper, it looks fantastic. My vanity degree.
This is
so I was originally going to be heading out to the city of Chongqing, which is a neighboring province. It used to be part of Sichuan, but then it was rolled into its own separate municipality because it's like a main trade hub. It's like it runs along the Yangtze River, so all the trade heading to the west of China has to pass through there.
Makes sense.
So the government wants extra control. So this is how I know all about like the situations with work visas, because originally I arrived there on a student visa.
Oh, that sounds like it's fun to try to get changed.
Yeah, no. So that's why I had to have the medical examination. That's why they called me and said, "Look, can you bring original documentation and things like that?" And the reason it didn't go through is because I hadn't completed my TEFL certificate, so I didn't have the original document. So the second they hear that, it's like, yeah, nope, couldn't do it.
Wonderful.
So instead, I was rolled around and sent to the county city of Guanghan. Now, the difference between a regular city and a county city is basically a town that, through urban development, has grown to the size of a city. So there's still not that much going on there. It's still pretty rural. So I was out there in the countryside in a I'll name drop it. Why not? It's the Sichuan Aerospace Polytechnical College. So my place, the main entrance, there are two replica, space rockets. It's all about, aviation, aerospace, engineering, and a few other things like the classes I were teaching. They're all doing things like design control techniques, or kind of like engineering/architecture.
Wow, that sounds pretty cool.
What was the name of the degree? Logistics management. So if you're working in a factory, training up factory managers and things like that.
Sure. Well, that sounds pretty cool.
Yeah. No, it was actually describing it. It's probably the best teaching situation a beginner, a complete novice like myself could hope for, because there was absolutely no oversight from my supervisors. They had they had nothing that they actually wanted me to do. There was no curriculum. I didn't have to follow any textbooks or anything like that. And all they needed from me was speaking and listening practice. So not reading and writing, just get the students talking every lesson, and they're absolutely happy. And my workload was, I had 3 classes for 3 lessons each a week. Each lesson was only an hour and a half. So only 13 and a half teaching hours a week. And
Yeah.
because I was living on campus, teaching on campus, there were no office hours. So I didn't have to travel. I could just, as soon as I'm finished the lesson, I just go back to my room, get on my laptop, start planning for the next lesson, things like that. So
Yeah, that doesn't sound terrible at all.
No, it was really quite good. But now I want to improve and grow as a teacher, which is why I'm actively looking for more actual jobs.
Sure, that makes sense. But during your time over there, can you describe some things that were like really surprising or that you weren't expecting when you first got to the foreign country that was China?
Yeah, no, there's a few things. It's basically whenever I suppose you can say when you travel to Japan, it's you go there with some expectations, because if you're applying for JET or something like that, you've probably already done some basic research, so you kind of know what to expect.
Sure.
So, when you got there, sorry to just turn your question into a question, but when you arrived there, did you go through the process of having your expectations met and then utterly exceeded?
The question is a good one. I might be the wrong person to ask for that one, because I sort of...
Well, yeah, because you'd already gone over there for like a high school exchange type thing.
Yeah, I'd been over there for a year during my college, but like during that period, I was still in my like terrible weeaboo bullshit phase. So,
oh God. Yeah, so you had the rose-tinted glasses.
Listen, everybody had one.
The rose-tinted Naruto headband.
Okay, just because I've cosplayed at least 3 characters from Naruto is not the point here. But no,
see, I didn't even know that. That's a slip up there.
Yeah, no. Anyway, having come over during that period where everyone's like, OMG, Japan is the best place and it fixes everyone's problems and everyone is an otaku,
Okay,
so we can all talk about Bleach and Naruto and One Piece because those are the 3 biggest pieces of media in the world, right? And then coming over and being like, okay, yeah, maybe like 1 out of every 50 people is like that, but you probably won't meet as many of them as you think, and not everyone does that thing the way that you think they do. So it's the equivalent of like going into a Mexican restaurant having only ever eaten at Taco Bell. Which, do you have Taco Bell in Great Britain? Now that I think about it,
no, we do not. I think, God, we have like Domino's and Papa John's, but we don't have much in the way of like specific like Mexican themed restaurants and things like that.
Makes sense. Well, Taco Bell, for anyone who isn't in America, is like the lowest tier fake Mexican food that you could possibly get, which is itself delicious, but is definitely not even a little bit Mexican. It just kind of looks like it. So when you go in there and you're like, yeah, this is Mexican food, and then you go to Mexico and you're like, where the fuck is all of my like sour cream? Where's the lettuce and tomatoes in my tacos? And they're like, yeah, but none of that is real though. Yeah, we have tacos, but they're not what you think tacos are. So that was the sort of set of expectations that I came in with, but I also came in with a healthy amount of cynicism, where I expected people to be like shit to begin with, and I wasn't wrong.
Yeah, so I had like a similar situation with China, where I basically had a vague inkling of what it was going to be like. Massive country, one of the highest populations in the world, if not the highest. I'm not too sure. It kind of.
I think population density, it's like first or second. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's 1.9 million people. Not 1.9 million. 1.9 billion people there. Big place, but what I was immediately, you think lots of people, big towers, but it's one thing to, think that in your head, and another thing to, as you're driving out from the airport, just to see massive buildings everywhere.
Right.
And so many people, so many people. And, yes, there is a general feeling of air pollution and things like that. That's something you kind of get used to. Oh well, the sky's grey again. Okay, hopefully it rains soon. Da, 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 da.
Yeah, right. But then when it
Yeah,
rains, it'll
no,
all be acid rain. Ha!
no, surprisingly not really.
Ha! Wonderful.
That's not where I was anyway, because I was in the west, so there was some general pollution, but that's mostly from a metric crap ton of cars
That makes
and
sense.
buses and things like
All
that.
right. Yeah. Well, we'll talk about
So
the air pollution thing in a little bit. That's one of the other questions that I have on my list. Don't skip ahead.
yeah. Okay. I'm sorry, I don't know this list of what you're speaking of. But yeah, no, heading out there, I had vague ideas. Like Chinese food, but most of the Chinese food that we get here in the UK, and probably the same thing in America, is we get the Canton style of stuff that was like exported from Hong Kong, that kind of region. So you're thinking, chow mein, sweet and sour chicken, fried rice is everything. And yes, there is an awful lot of rice. You have it with absolutely everything. But what you're not also there is, because it's such a massive country, the food in China is just so ridiculously diverse. And in Sichuan, in the West, everything is spicy as fuck. Sichuan peppercorn, you bite into that, your mouth goes numb. If you accidentally swallow it, it's going to pass right through you within the space of an hour or so.
Ooh, fantastic.
So, there's all that, and just I'll kind of run you through my the day-to-day of my first orientation week, because I was still quite oh wow. I got there, I wasn't really that jet lagged somehow, despite a 16 plus hour flight. I just didn't sleep on the flight. I stayed up the most of the night. I got a decent night's rest. Yeah, I flip a coin. You're either going to do well or you're going to be an absolute train wreck.
Right, there's no middle ground.
Yeah, no, it was, first 2 or 3 days we're taken through basic teaching. We had basic Mandarin lessons, which is always fun. I'll talk about learning the language later, or lack thereof. But yeah, we're going through that, and during the evenings after seminars and things are done, we have the opportunity to go out and explore and things like that. So we go out into the city. We take the buses, and the buses are ridiculously crowded, but they're you get one every 5 or 6 minutes, so it's super easy. And you just see a sheer mass of traffic everywhere. It's gone from a place of having few to no cars to having so many cars that there's like I'd say it's about, if it continues at the rate it is, within the next 5 years, China traffic is basically going to be Vietnam traffic.
Wow. Yeah, so that area just
doesn't. And you just you to cross the road, you start walking, don't stop, don't look behind you, don't look to the left, don't look to the right. It's
I hear you. So that area kind of just didn't have the infrastructure to hold up for that kind of growth. Well,
that's the thing. It's the main way that Chinese cities China is I'm going to be all over the place with various different talking points, so forgive me.
Sure.
But one of the things that the Chinese government holds up as its hallmark is that every year China holds a consistent amount of GDP growth.
Fantastic.
The way they do that is through building infrastructure, be it apartments or shopping malls, or building new highway roads and things like that. So it's urbanizing and improving at a very fast rate compared to what we would think of in the West. Like say for example, in London we have this little tiny bridge over the River Thames called the Millennium Bridge. And that thing took about, I don't know, maybe 5 years to get built, because you have to go through planning, you have to go through all the different regulations and things like that, and you have to build it, and then they had to go back and rebuild it, so it was kind of shaking.
Of course.
But in China, that little tiny bridge or river, 6 months from start to finish. It'd be like, yeah, no, let's build a bridge over there. Okay, so we get this done, we get this done. Massive amounts of people and effort, and then all of a sudden a thing is done.
Right.
So that's happening quite literally everywhere, regardless of where you are, unless you're like right there out there in the boonies, kind of like I was.
Sure.
There are going to be apartments being built. There's going to be highways, trains. There, the city of Chengdu, it has a pretty decent sized metro system, but they're going to continue to expand it up until the point there's like going to be like a metro line running 50 miles outside of the city to the north, all that kind of stuff. So
yeah, I mean,
I've forgotten your original question.
It's cool. Don't worry about that one. We'll get to the next one, which is actually kind of where we're going with this one. So way out where you were, which was kind of rural, how was the public transit? Was there the access to being able to get to the places that you need to reliably?
Well, kind of, because my college was outside. It's a little tiddly tiny campus, barely covers like 1.5 square miles, or you use kilometers, figure that out on your own. So it's a little tiny place. It had only been open for maybe 3 or 4 years, so really quite new by university and college standards. So there was only the number 5 bus, which got to the front of the campus entrance, and that would be there for like every 30. What? I just saw you like looking away. I was like,
yeah, sorry. I think it started to rain. While you continue talking about it, I'm going to close my windows real quick.
Okay. Yeah. So we have the number 5 bus, which is like every 30 minutes, and that takes you. It goes from the campus gates right all the way to the main central bus station in Guanghan. So along the way, you can get off in the town center, you can get off on the outskirts. It runs right along that way, and that was the only public transport I had to actually get into the city. Outside of that, I don't know, you can maybe walk, be a good hour or so to get somewhere, but that's all fine. So you have to take the bus to get into the city, and from there is not that much. Guanghan is because it was originally just like a little tiny town.
Sure.
The only thing it had, or it still has going for it, is the Bronze Age Museum of Sanxingdui, which is basically maybe 10, quite recently, they made this big archaeological discovery of all these different artifacts that date back to I don't know, so many years BC. So before China thought it was old, now it's really, really old.
Yeah.
And there's examples of that. So they're all really quite proud of that.
Good show.
But in order to get around the city, it's either you take the bus into the city, then you walk somewhere. And if you want to go elsewhere, you head to the bus station. There is a train station there, but that passes through. So there's you take a bus to go anywhere, basically.
Makes sense. So it seems like the situation that you were in is similar to several of the situations that people on the JET program get put in, where they're put way out in the middle of like a nowhere area, where they have to be far away from all the what like tourists would call good stuff.
Yeah.
How did you spend your free time when you were out there, out with the nowhere land?
My free time, I go out. The college was right by a riverside, so I could go walking along the river. I probably didn't do as much as I really should have because I can be a little bit shy and a bit of an introvert sometimes. So out there, I was the sole foreign person for a good 30-mile radius.
Oh, fantastic!
The lone white guy. So you get some stares, but
oh yeah.
But I actually didn't really mind that. I'm just sort of just walking by. It's the way we had it described by some people from the the Peace Corps. We had some teachers from the Peace Corps come out to describe the situation in China and all that kind of stuff. Is they said, okay, so if you're going to be anywhere, except in maybe Chengdu because there's a crap ton of foreigners there. You're the unicorn. They have never seen something like you before. You're going to get stares. You might get people coming up and asking for, a photo with you, but that's about it. So I just figured, okay, I'm going to be a unicorn. I'm going to strut. So I was just, going about my daily business. So it never really bothered me. Plus, because whilst I am clearly foreign,
Sure.
because I don't have blonde hair, blue eyes, or something like that, I'm like a stealth unicorn.
Right. You blend in slightly better than someone of, for instance, Scandinavian descent.
Yeah, or someone of a different ethnicity or race.
Yeah. Makes sense.
There are one or two people who like I had a friend who she dyes her hair bright red. So she was usually getting can I take a photo with you? Here, hold my child, that kind of stuff. I only had three instances where people wanted to take photographs with me.
Fantastic.
And 2 of those were when I was visiting like a major tourist spot in the north of the province. Because you're asking about what do we do in my spare time? Because I was out in the countryside, there wasn't really that much for me to do. I could occasionally go wandering in the city, but because it was originally quite a basic town, there's not that much going on there. If I wanted to go, say, swimming, I had to go to a hotel and figure out can I use your pool, that kind of stuff, which they did allow.
Sure.
Or just going through the various tiny malls. The biggest thing that we had there was we had a pretty large Walmart, and that's where you went for your consumer foods. But
you had a Walmart there.
Yeah.
That's an interesting point. I didn't know that Walmart had gone all the way up.
There's quite a few in various different places. They're gradually popping up.
And it's just straight up a Walmart? It's not like a such and such by Walmart kind of thing?
Kind of, yeah.
Huh.
I mean, I wouldn't know exactly what an American Walmart is, so I can't make that comparison, but yeah, no, big foreign place. It's the place you go for cheese, that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But I was surrounded by farmers' fields and countryside, so I could just the out walking or what have you, or on the weekends I could take a bus back to Chengdu because my city was quite close to the main central hub for the both the program and the interns and all that kind of stuff. So I had some friends in the city. I could go and visit there. I stayed in a hostel. We hung out. We went to a bar or something like that. It was all pretty cool.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so it sounds
outside of that, during the day, I just go back to my room if the weather was bad, and I had pretty good internet, so I could just watch some YouTube by working VPN magic and things like that.
Right. Yeah. Being over in China, YouTube is still banned over there, right?
But yeah, pretty much everything is banned over there by the Great Firewall of China, or if you, for the love of God, don't actually call it that to a Han Chinese, you get yelled at. It's the Golden Shield Project.
Sure, that's what it is. Okay. But of course, like for instance, in Japan, things aren't really blocked so much as there's just services that aren't available, like Hulu, for instance. But VPNs are super useful and decently cheap as well. Which one did you use?
I use ExpressVPN. I bought it for a year at a time, so because I had a little bit of money, I could pay the the $50 for a year-long subscription.
Sure.
So that was pretty helpful for me because it has an awful lot of servers. So I was connecting to servers in Taiwan mostly. That got me a good connection.
Mm-hmm.
Occasionally you bounce around to Hong Kong, or for a while I was connecting to one in Tokyo, but then that kind of became bad for some reason, so I stopped using that.
Yeah, well.
It was really kind of odd because if I wanted to use my Netflix, I had to connect to a VPN server in the UK because Netflix can tell if you're using a VPN. So I had to Netflix, I'm still paying for my subscription. Please let me watch Daredevil.
Yeah, honestly. Netflix and Hulu specifically seem to be really cracking down on the ability to be able to watch it in countries where they haven't given you permission yet.
Yeah.
But, eh,
Yeah, there are like Chinese equivalents to these things. The basic way is for every service that for every Western channel or what have you or site is banned, there's going to be a Chinese equivalent. So Google, you have Baidu. Everyone uses WeChat to communicate, so that's kind of like that's your Twitter and Facebook rolled into one. Blogging channels, you've got the various different Weibo stuff, QQ, things like that.
yeah, okay.
So there are ways and means, but the main barrier for entry is it's all in Chinese. So if, like me, you can barely read the damn moon runes, then you're not going to have an easy time of doing things.
Right.
Even someone like yourself who has I'd say you have a pretty good grasp of reading Japanese. Mandarin, Japanese similarities, differences. So yeah.
Oh yeah, no, I've tried to look at a couple pieces of writing that were written in Chinese, and it's like I know like maybe 3 of the 30 things that are on this page because of the subtle differences. But anyway,
especially since there's traditional characters
and simplified characters, yeah.
Simplified characters, which oh god.
Right. So for the viewers that are just tuning in right now, we are having an interview with my good friend Lysander, who is not really a candidate anymore, but is heading back to China to be a teacher there for a while.
Yes.
And who has expressed interest in coming to Japan to teach and that kind of thing as well. And so we are talking right now when it can happen, right?
Yesterday I had my seminar / interview thing for Interac. I applied for that and all that kind of stuff. So that could be kicking in at the end of my my Beijing contract next August.
Fantastic. We'll talk about Interac in a little bit because I have some experience with them as well. But so
for now, China.
Yeah, right. For now we're working with China. So you said that you had some basic knowledge of how the language worked, but for the most part you weren't like at a high fluency level with it. How did that affect your like day-to-day life?
My day-to-day life, surprisingly enough, just because of my situation, because of the way my college was quite insulated, didn't affect it at all. I could get by with my basic survival phrases of how much is that, things like that. Please, if anyone else can speak Mandarin, I apologize for my butchered pronunciation. The tones and the things like that. I'm still very much at survival phrases. I can't hold a conversation. I can barely remember numbers. Toggled down the little red book from 80 RMB to 35. Take that, you old woman. Hold it up for example. This is my little red book.
Fantastic. This sounds like it sounds like a very good story to tell on that one later.
Yeah. But no, because I barely had to use Mandarin really. My development was just utterly, very, very minimal. And one of the things with that the internship program promises is that the school will help set up Mandarin lessons for people. So I had other fellow interns, communicating with me on WeChat saying, it's like, oh, I'm having so much fun learning how to write this. This is awesome. But my school, because my college has a sister college in Chengdu, my supervisors had to split their time between the two.
Oh, good.
So I'd only see my main supervisor, Lisa, on a Monday and a Tuesday, maybe, if she was not feeling sick. Can happen. And the other one, Kima, I would see every other Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, maybe.
Good.
So I never had my lessons arranged, so I never really learned any Mandarin or anything like that. But the way when I arrived at my college, because you get free accommodation and you get
Lucky that.
bills. Yeah, I'll explain the internship program. You go over there as a teacher intern. You go over there on a student visa because you are there to learn Mandarin. So you are not allowed to say that you are a teacher because
Visa wibbly wobbly, you'll get in trouble.
technically it's both illegal and legal. So you're kind of you're flying under the radar at all times.
Good.
So because of that, they don't pay you an actual wage. You get a living allowance of I think it was 2,500 RMB a month, thereabouts.
Fair enough.
Usually 2,000, which is maybe it's the equivalent of 200 pounds, so $250 a month. But free accommodation, and my food was paid for because at the start I was given 2 meal cards to do different cafeterias.
Good.
And each meal card had 1,000 RMB on it. So nice. Because cost of living and food is super cheap, I was able to go the entire 4 months without spending any of my personal money on food. Aside from if I was buying like milk tea and things like that, because oh my god, milk tea.
Right, serious, like real talk, milk tea.
Yeah. No, it's and things like that. So food super cheap. Didn't have to pay for food. Didn't have to pay for accommodation, so I could live on that.
Okay, so yeah, it sounds like you had some like a pretty sweet setup over there. Do you know what kind of setup you're going to be heading over into with your new job?
In my new job, I'm going to be teaching at a public junior high school. So I'll be teaching ages 7 to 12. It's going to be fun. This is the hell that I've chosen. But it's in the Dongcheng district of Beijing, so it's slap dab in the center. It's in the area where you have the Forbidden City, you have Tiananmen Square, where in 1989 nothing happened. That's a really funny thing about China, because it's basically nothing happened.
Oh yeah, the
historical students will refer to it as historic events. Because of historic events, our grandparents and parents were moved from wherever we were before, and now we're in Sichuan, and we have no idea where our ancestors came from, things like that. But that's I'll elaborate on that later if you ask me a different question.
Sure.
I'm going to be teaching at a place in Beijing. They're going to be part of my pretty decent salary. Includes a rent allowance, so I'll have maybe 60% of my rent covered.
Oh, fantastic!
As basically part of my salary. They're going to be arranging for a place for me to live. I might have to pay might pay utilities, but again, the cost of living comparatively is pretty low. So I can get pretty top tier internet for the equivalent of 100 RMB a month, which is £10.
Yeah, that's
15
awesome.
Bucks a month for. We're not talking Google fiber levels. But
it's still pretty darn good.
Pretty good. And that's just like internet. There's also heating bills and things like that.
Sure.
Which might get a little bit because Beijing is in the north, so in the winter it's hella cold.
Oh, right.
And also hella polluted because of all the coal-fueled power stations.
Right. I'd like to point out to the viewers right now that a gentleman from the United Kingdom just said hella twice.
That's your influence. I'm doing that for you. Shut up.
My virus is spread.
Yeah, I think
brilliant. Okay, so when you were applying for your job that you're going into right now, what were some of the things that you had to have to see if we can draw some parallels between that and, for instance, the JET program? I know that you said you had to have your full body medical check, which we have to have in the JET program as well.
Yeah. Okay. So because Beijing is a municipality, you need to physically post your original documents to China. That includes your degree certificates, a scanned copy of your passport, a police background check. I had to get mine renewed, which they were late to telling me about, so that was extra cost.
Good.
Certificate, the contract which I printed out, signed, and then sent that over, passport photos, that kind of thing.
Sure, sure.
With that, they then get you. There are two documents that you need when applying for the Z visa, which is the work visa in China. And that is a foreign work permit.
Sure.
And an invitation letter from the school. Now, the school takes care of the invitation letter, which I assume they have done now. And
Fingers crossed.
the foreign work permit takes about 3 weeks for them to get. Most things take at least 10 working days or 3 weeks to process and happen. So
Fair enough.
Once they get that for me, they then post that back so I can apply for the visa here in the UK. And then as soon as I get the visa, I can then buy a ticket, because you're not going to buy a plane ticket without having a visa. That's
a little bit unwise, perhaps. Yeah.
Yes, some might call it an utter waste of money, and you should hit yourself for it.
So the documents. Some may say. No, the documents are very similar with the JET program. The letter from the school and that kind of thing is like the letter of guarantee that the Claire and all of them are going to send to the Japanese government and that kind of thing. You'll have the certificate of eligibility and all that other bollocks as well. So it seems like you've gone through basically the same process, minus having to have the two written letters and that kind of thing. Did you have to do a statement of purpose or anything like that?
Not necessarily, no. With this application, it was basically just send your CV. They then do a Skype interview, and then depending on that, they decide whether or not they want you out there.
Fair enough. So it is more of an actual job interview than it is the big hullabaloo that the JET program likes to throw at people.
Yeah.
Was there an initial investment on your part, like something that you would be told, like, okay, well, you have to, when you get there, you have to pay for your first 2 months of rent or something like that? Were there any of those?
For the internship program, we were required to send them. This hadn't happened before, but because they get paid by the schools to bring teachers over. Well,
sure. Teacher
interns. So the school pays them so much, but if the teacher decides that they don't want to come out, that they either don't want to come over, or once they get there, they then decide, no, this isn't for me, or they leave halfway through or something like that, the company then has to financially reimburse the school.
Sure.
So we were required to send over the equivalent of about 2,000 RMB, so they would then have something, just in case the school didn't. We didn't like it or something like that.
That makes sense, yeah.
And we got that back as soon as we arrived. So we had 2,000 RMB to last us until our first payday, which was about a month and a half after we started. So we kind of had to make it stretch, but you go there with your own little bit of money. And because accommodation is free and food is paid for, it's manageable.
Makes sense. Were there any unexpected monetary costs or things like that that you weren't told about that you had to deal with?
Not necessarily. Most of the main cost came from just getting the paperwork in the UK. It costs so much to get a police background check. The visa here in the UK, to get a visa, costs about £150.
Oof.
Regardless of what you're doing. Then there's the flight. They don't reimburse you for that. Travel insurance, you got to have that. So there's that. Basic stuff with traveling and moving abroad.
Okay.
You have to pay.
Well, okay. So it sounds like you had a pretty decently easy first setup to get over there. Let's hope that it's just as simple the next time around. You said, yeah, right. So you said that you had an interview with Interac as well. What made you choose Interac instead of any of the other available companies?
I filled out an application first. They got back to me first. That's pretty much it.
That sounds fair.
I've applied for the JET program before, as I said earlier, but because I failed that 4 times due to reasons,
Yeah, question mark.
My current thought process is okay, Jet. I see what you're doing. Well, I'm going to get back to you in 5 years' time when I've been to XYZ country, taught in XY situation. So when you ask, firstly, do you have any experience? I can just go,
Yeah,
you damn right I do.
Thump, 6 pounds.
Oh, so you're interviewing graduates who are fresh out of college who maybe did a degree in Japanese, and you want them to teach? Oh, that's cute. I've been teaching for 5 or 6 years.
The background.
And then they still won't accept me for no reason.
Honestly, I can't really tell you why the JET program didn't accept you. They've accepted like really shit people before, and they've accepted really good people.
The judgment process in the UK is slightly.
Yeah, I've been told that the judgment process is completely like ass over tea kettle different. And
I have no idea.
Well, I mean, I've talked to a couple of the UK people and one gentleman from Australia, my dear friend Marcus, who may be coming back at some point. Fingers crossed on that one. But apparently the judgment process and like all of the like lead up and the documents and the paperwork and that kind of thing are held like vastly differently between America and literally anywhere that's not America. So yeah. I mean, I've seen some pretty just like low tier people on JET, and I've seen pretty high tier people on JET. So I don't know why you wouldn't have been like accepted for it. I mean, obviously apply again, because why not?
Because my references were pretty basic. If I were to pin it down to something, I was asking people who I got worked with in jobs who have no real concept of what JET is, so they just give you the basic next job reference of Alex is super awesome and you should employ him. They don't, the JET people, they want, at least, paragraphs citing different things. And
yeah, that makes sense. And you're talking about for your letters of recommendation, yeah. Yeah, letters of recommendation for the JET program are actually probably going to be the most important part of it. You just have to find somebody who is either going to tell the real good bits about you or is willing to lie.
Yeah, I mean, I think for the first 2 fails, that might have also come down to both references, and I had pretty poor statements of purpose. That you read up on websites and things like that, what you should write and things like that. And I think maybe I went a little too weeaboo. I've been watching Japan for so long. They're not really interested in that.
Yeah.
They ask you to be enthusiastic, but you need to be enthusiastic to a very specific threshold. And if you go under or above that, then it's like, oh.
Well, you have to be enthusiastic in the correct direction as well. Because, like, I've talked to some people that have been like, yeah, I don't know why JET didn't, pick me. Here is my statement of purpose. And they're like, OMG, karate is my life, and I've been doing karate for 17 straight years, and now I want to
tea ceremony and anime.
Right, and like, yeah, it's okay to like those things, it's okay to be interested in them, but the JET program doesn't want to know that you, like every other person who's interested in JET but isn't a weeaboo, that you do tea ceremony and martial arts and calligraphy. Because if you're not a weeaboo but you still like Japan, they expect that those are like the 3 things that you're gonna talk and tout about. So who knows? But yeah, I mean, as far as that goes, like, give it another shot. Why not? I'll help you out with the thing. I'll even write you a letter. We talked about that.
Get there. I mean, in any case, if I get over there in Interac, I'm only going to be there from August until the end of the school year. So March
question
so
mark?
I'll only be teaching for a short period of time, but the thing about jobs in Japan or any Asian country is it's getting there. Once you get there, a whole realm of other jobs are available for you.
Oh, so man, it's so much.
As soon as I arrive there, I'm going to be looking for other things using my I've spent a year working in Beijing, and then I came to Japan, and I have a master's degree and all that kind of stuff. Because if you have a master's degree and 2 years of teaching experience, 2 to 3 years, doesn't matter where you've been teaching, that is that is, the MasterCard to get into every single place, basically.
It's the multi-pass, yeah.
Yeah. Lilu Dallas multi-pass.
Yeah, they get it, darling. It's a multi-pass. Okay, so it sounds like you've got some plans set up for the future as well. Fingers crossed that Interact works out for you. When you get here, let's hang out.
Indeed. It would be criminal not to.
Honestly, at this point, right? But yeah, so let's talk about why you wanted to be a teacher specifically. Because I know we mentioned this at the very beginning of the stream that you thought that it was like a neat idea and that kind of thing. But like very specifically, what about teaching makes you go, I want to do that?
It's interesting because it's that attitude has only been a recent development for me now that I've actually done it. I mean, I mentioned years ago, I met my Japanese friend who introduced me to this whole realm, and through research, it increasingly became, wow, that looks cool. I'd kind of like to do that, just because my degrees and my academic training are for very specific things. Film and media. That's, in order to get any job for that, you need to have at least a year's worth of unpaid internship stuff.
Ain't that the truth?
I could never afford to do a year of unpaid internship stuff.
Yeah, no, under no
I had to
circumstances.
look for other things, and all of my work experience previously, it's all in cleaning and things like that. I've worked cleaning the floors of a restaurant. I've worked cleaning the floors of a hospital, and that doesn't really translate into, okay, I'm going to get a desk job or something like that. That's not really what they look for. So I've always been looking at, so where can I take my my passion for English and storytelling and things like that, and channel it in a creative way. And throughout my research, teaching kind of looked like a fun way of doing that. And
makes sense.
With the JET program, it was just a case of I applied for that just because it's the big, it's one of the big ones for getting people out to Japan. I wanted to go out to Japan just because I knew people there. I wanted to do it. It eventually became a thing where from I kind of want to do this to, oh, for God's sake, I just want to do this damn thing. And once it reached the point where that was going to be maybe difficult, and I did the TEFL, now it's just a case of, oh wait, I don't have to just go to Japan. I can go anywhere.
Wherever I bloody please, thank you, right?
And now that now I've been doing it, I've just been thinking, wow, no, this is kind of fun. I would like to develop myself as a teacher and just do this. This is cool. And the fun thing about script writing is I can do that in my spare time and build a portfolio and maybe send things off in the future. But for now, wow, teaching in a foreign country is where it's at. And I'm not even interested in just the travel aspect. For me, it's teaching English is fun. I enjoy it.
And you do get
I haven't reached the point where the soul crushing despair has hit me. So I'm annoyed.
Yeah, I mean, give it some time. It'll probably come about. Don't worry about it. When it comes to funding in for tea. So, what about after you're done with Interact, if you get Interact? Are you thinking you might want to continue with the teaching thing, or do you think that you're going to...
Oh, yeah, no, I'm going to be teaching now for the next decade or so, if I can make it work. It's just a case of stringing together year-long contracts. I'm not going to be, I might go back to the UK for a year or so or something like that. I don't know yet. But I'm planning my life now a year at a time.
Right. That makes sense. So if you had the opportunity to do so, what would be your ideal subject to teach?
My ideal subject to teach, if I could do so, just because it's where my experience lies, is in film and writing, probably. But those can all dovetail into different things. For now, it's just English as a foreign language. Yeah.
Makes sense, yeah. And I mean, teaching English as a foreign language gives you the kind of experience that you'll need for difficult other types of classes as well. Developing any of the skills that you'll need for classroom control and curriculum development and all the other bollocks that people are going to be looking for that kind of thing. Now, you already have a master's degree. Do you think that you are going to maybe go back and get maybe like a teaching certificate in the UK?
Maybe, maybe not. Just because getting a teaching certificate is a 3-year thing. And yeah, that's something. If I were to do that, that would be way in the future. But if I were to return to the UK after teaching, I wouldn't necessarily be teaching in a UK school. I'd be looking more to turn my my linguistic improvements, being able to speak Mandarin or what have you, and put that more towards business consulting. Just because the way modern businesses work, there's a lot of money and opportunity in acting as a consultant for companies who need a middleman to operate abroad and things like that.
Yeah.
So that's where I might be looking at. Or if I like myself in a particular foreign country, I might set up my own teaching agency or my own training up teachers. Who knows? There's a lot of possibilities if you know what to do, how to do it, if you're willing to put in the hard work.
Yeah, and you've got that ambition.
Really.
Makes sense. Yeah, I've got a friend over in Taipei right now who has been there for several years and has now just stopped teaching with an agency and has gone full freelance and is making 3 times as much money or some such like that.
Oh yeah, no, Taipei is an absolute gold mine at the moment.
It seems that way. Do you think you might be looking?
I considered Taiwan just because continuing on with the Mandarin and things like that. But at the moment, it's either my choices are either Japan or Vietnam, just because I know an agency. The situation out there is pretty good as well.
Makes sense. Yeah. Okay.
Or if you have 3 years of teaching experience, that's when you can start getting jobs in places like the United Arab Emirates, and the salary there is close to $50,000 a month.
Yeah, it's kind of ridiculous, right? Kind of what the hell, right?
Yeah. I mean, you're teaching the kids of oil sheikhs, so yeah, that kind of comes with it. But yeah.
And I mean, the United Arab Emirates seems like it would be a decent place to go if you wanted to make infinite money forever.
Yeah,
I dig it. Yeah. So that is the end of the list of questions that I had prepared already. But tacked onto the end of that one was that question about air cleanliness and pollution. Is there a health thing that you will do to try to minimize the effects of the pollution on you while you're over there?
One moment.
He's probably going to go and get a specific item that he's going to show us. The answer is...
I have a mask.
Hey, he's got a mask!
See? It's pretty simple, really. You just don't try to breathe.
Fantastic. Good. So is it like a sort of filter style mask, or is it just like a cloth thing that is supposed to collect the particles in the air?
A little bit of both. There are 2 filters in the corners there, but unless you're buying the kind of full facial plastic mask that has filters that cost $60 each, that kind of stuff, then there's always going to be some level of particulates or dust getting in or something.
Of course.
It's just about trying to minimize it and being really careful on the days, because Beijing is now absolutely famous for poor air pollution in the winter and things like that, or even any time of the year, basically. And whilst they're all, all of the Chinese population knows it, and they don't like it, and they're kind of annoyed with it, progress is slow in kind of not reversing the course, but altering it slightly. So
makes sense, yeah. While you were over there, did you notice any detriments to your physical health?
Oh no, actually, strangely enough, well, I was in the countryside, so I had the cleanest air you could possibly get. Yeah, most days it could be kind of slightly grayish in the atmosphere because there's like a factory within the same 2 miles.
Sure, but in
But
comparison.
in comparison, it was really quite good. And actually, oddly enough, my health was slightly better just because I'm out and I'm walking. And in the UK, I think I've never actually been diagnosed or anything like that. But I think I have like a slight pollen, grass allergy. Because during the summertime, I'm sneezing and I sneeze. I'm not like eyes blurring and all that kind of stuff. I can sneeze quite easily.
Sure.
And you build up a lot of mucus in the nose and all that kind of crap. Real gross stuff. None of that really happened in China.
That's
So
fantastic.
I wasn't really sneezing a lot due to dust, or I don't know, maybe like the dust dried my nose up, so it just didn't really work properly. But I don't know. For some reason, I was just slightly better.
Hey, I can't disagree with it. It might also probably be because of the quality of food as well, because the quote-unquote Western countries are notorious for having like shit processed food. And
oh yeah, as I say, because my school was surrounded by farmland, I just walk outside. I have fresh vegetables right from the field. Which, side thing for if you're having vegetables, you have to wash your vegetables with a special kind of soap to get away all the bugs and all of the pesticides and chemicals.
of course.
Then you have to dry. Then you have to meticulously dry all of your vegetables because the water contains bacteria and metals and things like that. It's oh god. If you're doing anything with lettuce, it's a 2-hour process of I will clean this leaf and then I will dry each individual leaf.
I have a laundry hanger with like 30 little like clips on it, and I'm just imagining that filled with lettuce.
Yeah, I had something similar for my socks.
Fantastic. Okay. So do you have any recommendations for people who would want to like pursue a future doing teaching abroad, whether it be in Japan or in China or in anywhere else?
Recommendations. Oof.
Like things that you'd think that they had ought to do, things that they shouldn't be discouraged about, that kind of thing.
It's hard for me to really answer a question like that just because my general overall teaching experience is so basic and minimal. So what I can say is agencies and places like that, they need to improve their game when it comes to active communication. Like it shouldn't take a few days for them to get back to you with an answer to a question that you really kind of need, because the way things kind of work in China is there's a lot of slow deliberation, sudden burst of activity where everything happens at once, slow.
Yep.
They need to kind of learn to spread that out a little bit. But then again, this is all caught up in, cultural things and
tradition, and we've always done it this way.
Which are slow to change.
Makes sense. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. No, I can't really make that many recommendations outside of if you're going to do it, going for always do your due diligence when looking at different companies, because all across the place there are people who are just out to scam you and do you over. And that's not me being cynical. That's just a pure basic fact.
Actual real things that happen. Yeah.
Yeah.
I will put a link to the internship program that you talked about earlier in the description of this video once we're done with it, so that people who are watching later can.
It's called Teach and Discover China, and if you're doing it through, it's with the you always get it's because it's China and their acronyms. The Sichuan Education Association for International Exchange. That's the company that's based here. Those are the people who want the teachers. And I did it through, I was introduced to them through an agency in the UK called ESL Starter. Now, they have a website. They've got internship programs for Korea, Thailand, all that kind of thing. And I did my TEFL through the TEFL Academy. So look them up. They also have a jobs board on, that has jobs going in Asia, Europe, South America, all over the place.
Yeah, the TEFL Academy seems to be a pretty popular one too. When I was looking into it, I came across that one as well. It's just I didn't have the money for it at the time, so I didn't end up
Yeah,
getting
that was me for like 2 or 3 years.
Right.
I know of this thing, I just can't afford to do it.
Makes sense. Well, yeah, okay, well, wonderful. Well, Alex, thank you very much for coming and spending time and doing the interview with us so that people can watch it and listen to your experiences so that they can compare it to their own one and if they get them. I super appreciate you taking time out for it. I know we've been trying to plan this thing for like a month now.
And if you want to talk about this again more, but it's just like swapping anecdotal stories, like our first time using a squat toilet or something like that, then
sure,
we'll do it again in the future.
Yeah, most
boy,
definitely.
They're an adventure.
Right. Oh man, weird toilets in general are, because like in Japan, obviously you've got the biggest range of them, because you've got the like squat hole in the ground that like you stand over a toilet, which you guys have over there as well, I'm sure. But then you've also got like the computerized washlet toilets that when you sit down like play sounds and like spray out air freshener and wash your butthole and that kind of thing. So
yeah, you've got the full spectrum. We've just got Western toilet, which is still pretty rare, and squat toilet, which at a time in a public place is basically just you have slight individual booths and there's a trough. Oh, that's how you learn to always carry tissue.
Oh yeah,
because
like
mother of God.
Yeah, at least in Japan, they've kind of gotten a little bit better on that one. But anyway, if we're going to do that one, then I'll probably invite in that gentleman I was talking about earlier, who is the teacher in Taiwan, and see if I can't get a couple maybe other teachers in, and we'll have a roundtable discussion, and it'll be great. But yeah, definitely. So again, thank you very much, Lysander. Lysander45 is his YouTube username.
Kind of. I don't actually make videos. I might in the future if I can actually figure out how. For the meanwhile, I'll just be sort of figuring out how to learn Mandarin and live in a foreign country, basically.
It seems like it's a good idea there, right? Plus, so anyway,
YouTube in China. I have to jump through extra hoops.
Right, VPN services. All right, so good. But anyway, again, thanks for watching, you guys. Thanks for coming by. I hope you enjoyed the interview. If you'd like me to do more interviews in the future with more people, or if you want to be interviewed on my channel, tell me an interesting thing about yourself, and I'll see if I can make it happen with scheduling and that kind of thing. Thanks very much for coming and watching. Good show, everyone. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Stop broadcast. There we go.